Make-A-Wish employees, what was the most strangest thing a Make-A-Wish kid asked for and actually received? I helped host a visit to a planetarium by a kid whose wish was to go to the moon. The front office folks thought I could just give her a personal tour of the planetarium and show her some nice high-resolution visuals, but I thought she deserved better than that. I commissioned a jeweler friend and meteorite enthusiast to make a silver crescent moon necklace, which he graciously donated to the cause. And I donated a small lunar meteorite from my own collection. It was a gorgeous necklace, very much to the credit of my friend's artistry and generosity. We couldn't take her to the moon, so we gave it to her instead. She was thrilled, but later said her real highlight of the trip was the astronaut ice cream. Ah, kids. I worked at the hospice, and we had a wishing program. One of our patients, 24-year-old with brain cancer, wanted to hold a sloth. Apparently, sloths are very nervous creatures, so it's a little tricky to actually hold one. I found a local company that does visits to schools and whatnot who had a sloth. Sloths only poop about once a week, and the sloth could only travel the day after he pooped because they get nervous. Any longer than that and the sloth has stress diarrhea. So basically, we had to wait until the sloth pooped and then set up a visit for the next day. The sloth pooped on Thanksgiving, so we set up the visit for the next morning. The patient was able to hold and pet a very sweet sloth. The patient died about 3 weeks later, and I am very happy I was able to help give her some joy in her final weeks. Edit. Wow, guys, I did not expect this to blow up. Thank you so much for the awards. The hospice I worked at had a special program called Faithful Wishes for any of our patients, regardless of age. As the volunteer coordinator, fulfilling these wishes was part of my job. I do believe there are other nonprofit organizations that grant wishes to adults, but nothing as large as Make-A-Wish. Yes, the sloth was tame and lived in an animal preserve. He would also visit schools and retirement communities, schedule permitting. And yes, I absolutely learned more about sloth bowel movements than I ever wanted to. I was a chef at a fancy steakhouse in Jacksonville, Florida. One day my proprietor came to me and said, "This is Stacy, the new girl. She'll be training with you." I look over and it's this adorable little girl in bright pink chef coat. I babysat my little cousins at the time, so I was actually pretty used to entertaining 10-year-old girls at the time. So I showed her the ropes. We made all kinds of stuff that were on the surface kind of random: candied bacon, cornbread, prosciutto wrapped bourse and cheese stuffed asparagus, a sweetie brined pork chop, a sorrel garnish salad type thing, and some other cool garnishes. We were having fun. I then made a puree out of the cornbread, let her plate up the dish a few different ways to show how you can play with ingredients and height to showcase different parts of the dish. She had a blast. It was only at the end, when the father came up to me in tears, that I realized what was going on. In the moment I was a little upset because nobody told me. But I realized after it was for the best. I probably would not have been as bright and vibrant with the lessons had I have known. But it was a fulfilling experience for sure. I hope their family is doing well. Side note, I have reworked and rerun the dish as a special a few times in memory of that day. It was that impactful. My daughter had a genetic neuromuscular disease with an average life expectancy of 24 months. Most children with this disease are above average intelligence. This child was extremely intelligent. Most children are putting only 2 words together, but mine was saying 7-9 word sentences. Make-A-Wish typically wants the child to be 3 years old, because most children younger than 3 are not able to express their wish. She was 2.5 years old, unable to tell them exactly what she wanted. She wanted to meet Barney and Baby Bop. Fortunately, they were owned by Disney and we got to meet them at Give Kids the World. And it was great that we got to go to Disney because she also loved, and got to meet, all the princesses. She loved the parades in Animal Kingdom too. Another plus, my mother was in a short remission with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and was able to make the trip with us. My mom died 2 years after the trip. My daughter died 13 years after the trip. Yes, she lived to be 15 years old. Wish child and wish granter here. Strangest wish I heard from a fellow grantor was the child wanted to visit his dad in prison. That's all he wanted and wouldn't be talked out of it. She offered to make the drive fancy at least BC it was 2 hours away with a limo or fun car ride. He declined. His wish to simply see his imprisoned dad was granted, plain and simple. The wishes I granted were pretty traditional, Disney or other vacations. My weirdest wish was more sad. It was for a family of a girl who was completely immobile and very low cognitive ability. The house was run down and reeked of weed. The home nurse was literally crying while holding the child. Her siblings said she wanted a pool. I was fuming. We talked with a mom who wouldn't leave her own bed for unknown reasons, bong on nightstand, and she agreed a pool wasn't the best idea. Nurse recommended a chair the child could sit in that would rock and calm her. Wish granted. Edit to add, for your information, my wish was Disney. Had a heart transplant in 1999. I'm fine now. About 60% of our wishes are Disney. And totally worth it. My family took me again on my 20-year heartiversary, and I'll never forget it. I used to be a wish granter, and one kid wished for his parents to become citizens. They were illegal and it was a constant source of anxiety for the kid that they could be deported. Unfortunately, despite the name law can't grant everything and they did try, got a lawyer and everything, but it wasn't possible. More than 50% of wishes are Disney, though. Edit. Being a wish granter is a volunteer job, and I highly recommend it for anyone looking for a volunteer role. You get to ask the child their wish and you organize the going away wish party. Edit. You guys have latched onto the going away party. 1. It's a common misconception but most wish kids don't die. See my below comment. 2. They get a send-off party. Word it however you want, haha, but it's a party before they go on their wish trip. A lot of parents use it to celebrate everything the child has overcome and put up pictures of them in treatment, etc. It is a send-off, though not to end of life you mind and gutter people. To Disney World or wherever they want to go. This one is going to get buried since it's too late, but my wife used to work at Disneyland playing Cruella. One day her manager came by while she was getting ready for the day to tell her that she was going to do a private audience for a child from the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Now my wife was absolutely shocked. She had worked there for years and seen the princesses and Minnie Mickey Mouse do hundreds of Make-A-Wishes, while the villains had never done a single one. She thought today was her lucky day and she was going to be making a wish for the rare Cruella superfan. This was years ago before Cruella had her own movie and was popular. Next my wife enters the private audience room, which she hadn't even been in before, and puts on her Cruella attitude. Before she knows it, she sees this diminutive teenage child being wheeled over who is pointing her finger and yelling. As the child is wheeled closer, my wife hears the child yelling, "You're a creep," over and over again. She tried to play it off saying all the standard Cruella lines and making jokes, but the kid just kept screaming "You're a creep," while the family laughed and took photos. Now the kid wasn't 100% there mentally, so my wife didn't take it that hard. But it was pretty hilarious and confusing for my wife. TLDR, Kids Make-A-Wish was to spend 15 minutes berating Cruella in person, who just so happened to be my very confused wife. I was a cancer kid, so know quite a few people who went through the process. I went to Yellowstone to camp and see a wild buffalo. I also volunteered at my local wish-granting foundation. One very young girl wanted to go on a hunting trip. They sent her and her dad to a hunting lodge where she ended up breaking the lodge record for the largest buck ever shot. She wanted the entire thing stuffed. To this day in her house there's a massive deer, body and all, standing in the living room. Another kid really wanted to eat bugs because he was a really big fan of the Survivor shows. They had a chef come in and cook bugs from all around the world in various ways. He really enjoyed it. I also just want to say that a ton of kids want to go meet a WWE pro wrestler, and they're normally the kindest people. A lot of kids want to meet celebrities and they only give them 5 minutes, but the wrestlers really try to make an experience. John Cena is great. Apparently Robin Williams was also the best wish granter. He would take the family out to eat, pretend to be the genie, take the kids to stores and buy them things, and if he was in their town he would try and visit. I never knew anyone personally that met him, but the president of the foundation said they very much mourned his loss because he was so terrific for so many of their kids and their families. I worked at a Lego retail store in the 2000s, and Make-A-Wish approached us for a child with terminal osteosarcoma who wanted to be in the store for a day. Lego unfortunately denied the request, which surprised myself and the rest of the staff, because Lego was a pretty great company. Staff decided to honor the request ourselves. We closed the store early on a Sunday, then invited the kid and family in. He had a full run of the store. We collectively paid for like $1,000 worth of toys for him to take home, and just spent the entire evening building what he wanted. He died a few months later.